All right. Hey, welcome back to the Own the Outcome podcast. Today we have Cayla Craft. And Cayla, man, I'm so excited and grateful to have. Thank you for being here. For real. I'm excited to chat with you and get to know your story a little bit more.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. Those of you who don't know Cayla, you're some of the few on the planet who do not. She's an absolute beast. She's in the real estate space, the coaching space. She's in the wealth building space. About to launch her, publish her book as well, or launch her book, which we'll definitely talk about, called "What Do You Really Want?" Right?
Yes. Good job.
Hey, no. I'm excited for that. That's perfect for obviously what we talk about here. So, maybe we even start in with that, man. Let's talk about your book and the launch.
Right. So I have always loved helping people. I grew up raised by a single mom, with my dad in jail. So I always felt like an outsider. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening into this podcast can relate to that feeling, because it seems to be like every successful person I talk to ends up being like, I was the black sheep in my family. Like I never really fit in. I'm like, yeah, me too. But because I grew up that way, I've always been very inclusive. Like I want to invite people with me. I want to take people to the top. I always want to make people feel special. And so when I started to have success in my early 20s, became a millionaire and all of these things, people were asking me how'd you do it? And I'm like, oh God, how did I do it? When you're in it, you don't have a process. So I reverse engineered what I did to become a millionaire, then become a multi-millionaire. And I really broke it down into 7 steps. And I decided to put it in the book, What Do You Really Want? And the book is great. It's fantastic, but I really hope it's one of those things that people will just keep on their coffee table, to be having that reminder that you can get anything you want in life without even reading the book. I want them just to get that feeling from having it, in their house. So that's my goal. One of the goals.
Yeah. I love that so much, because can I tell you that I really sincerely believe in that. I believe in surrounding myself with books. I believe there's energy that comes from those books.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what I love. A couple of things that you mentioned is that I love that you mentioned that you felt like the black sheep. And so you always want to make people feel inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's so powerful for people to really pull from what you just said, because when you reach this level, because you came out of wherever you came out of, that literally puts you in a position to supply and help the people that you once were, the person that you once were. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And then the other side, I love that you already have the vision for your book on a bunch of people's coffee tables and in their homes. That's a vision that you're already putting out there. I love
Millions of people are going to have it on their coffee table. I know it.
Hey, 100%.
But I think that's so important is you have to have the vision. And sometimes in the beginning, you don't have it. I just had this feeling. I know that I need to put it in a book because that's the way to get it to the masses, right? Still, people don't even know that there's how to open up a podcast app. I've had my podcast for 5.5 years. I was, okay, but people know to go on Amazon and order books. We got to put this into a book. And I didn't have the vision for millions of people. I just thought, well, if one person reads it, then yay, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But then the vision will grow over time, and you just got to keep feeding your vision. And a lot of us, we feed other people's visions, which that's great. I love to give to your cause and give to your mission, but how often are you watering your land, and making sure that what you really want is getting nurtured, and that there's good, you've been sowing good seed to eventually get the harvest.
Yeah. So that's what I want to get into, because I've consumed a bunch of your content. One of the things that I love about your content is how you talk about purpose, and how you talk about finding your purpose and dialing in your purpose. And so I would love to get into some of that, but I want to backtrack a little bit, because we've teased a little bit. Now I want to backtrack, and I want to talk a little bit about just your upbringing, because why is your purpose what it is, and how were you raised, and what have you done? Let's get into that stuff, if you don't mind.
I love it. It's so important because it makes us who we are. And in my early 20s, I never talked about where I came from. I was just get it done. No sob story here. Nobody needs to know what I had to overcome. And I realized that was really a disservice to all of the people around me, because when you make it look too easy, people around you don't even try, because they're like, she just must have the Midas touch. And it's not that way for me. So that's why I'm committed to like talking about the struggles now and talking about the failures, because that is actually what's inspiring everybody. Like, it's easy to look at somebody when they're winning, but if you know how many times like I've had to get back up, how many times Tyler has had to get back up and fight for what it is that you want, you're like, okay, I can freaking do this too. So yeah, my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old. And, I know a lot of people, like 50% of people have their parents get divorced. But my thing that was added on to that was my dad also went to jail. So it wasn't like my family was just broken apart. It was that my dad was now completely absent from my life. And when you have that person that's supposed to be your provider, your protector, completely absent, you start to get, the daddy issues. I know it's a popular podcast now, but I had these like just feelings of being unwanted and unloved. And when you have that type of feeling, you work really hard to achieve and prove your worthiness to be alive. And I know now, now that I have the comprehension and all of the things that, I have now, it's like, okay, I was always worthy to begin with. I don't have to do anything to achieve, to prove that I'm worthy of success. But that's also what makes me is I have really tough, tough, thick skin, and I can power through anything. And it's because like you have that, like, oh, I just got to prove. So that's really what made me who I am. And also at the same time, it's also made me have extreme compassion for people, because everybody has a story. And when you realize like, I'm not just like this person, but I have a whole long history of just crap and trauma. And most people that we come into contact with do. And so when you understand that, you just start to have grace on people, especially in business, and you don't get so easily offended. I think that it's made me just like kind of, have things bounce off of me. And that's really helpful as you're building a business, because most people out there get taken out of the game way too quickly because they get offended, by certain things that happen around them. And so, it's just helped me really like kind of toughen up and just be like, it is what it is, fight harder for what you want.
See, that's what I love is what I translate that into is that you worked on you. Like by working on you, you strengthen not only you, but you strengthen the business. Like if you want your business to be strengthened, well, you have to be strengthened.
Absolutely.
But I have a question for you, because you talked about that you were, grinding and had to prove yourself, but you realized at some point that you always were worthy of the success. When was that time for you? When was that unlock of like, man, I've always been worthy? And what did that mean for you when you realized that?
So I found myself at 26, a millionaire, had the dream house, the dream cars, the dream kids, like everything that everybody could want at 26 years old, which is still young, And so I looked around and I was like, I'm not happy. Like I thought all of this stuff and all of this achievement would make me happy, and I wasn't. And so I actually hired my first life coach. And he was like, Cayla, you're a bulldozer in life. Like you just go anywhere to get what you want. You'll run over anybody. And you want to be like a Ferrari getting to your next destination. And I was like, yeah, that is what I want. How do I get that? And, like, how do I get that? And he was like, well, first, in order to get that, we have to go back to why you are the way you are. And so I started to like heal my inner child, the little Cayla that had all of these things to prove and never felt good enough. And I started just to work with her and love on her. And I know it sounds like super woo-woo, but that's really the thing that changed my life. And I talk about that in the book, because it's these simple things that everybody's heard inner child. And we think it's so not a big deal, but that is the thing where I go, oh my gosh, like, look how cute she was. Like little Cayla, I love her. Like, if you look at pictures of little Tyler, it's like, oh, he's so cute, like he's like, you look at kids and you think they could be anything they want, and you adore them and you love on them. And that's how we need to look at ourselves. And so once I started to do that, I really changed the perspective of like, wow, okay, I really already always had it inside of me. And, people have always looked at at me like this, like they love me and they adore me. And so when I started to walk around the world like that, like people have good intentions for me and I attract people like that into my life, I started to see more and more of it. And, some of my best friends in the world showed up in my, late 20s because I started to see things differently.
Oh, there's so much. I feel like there was so much to unpack from what you just went through. Like,
I know.
first, I believe trauma stays trauma until you turn it into a learning experience. And so, you want to figure out how to learn and grow. Well, man, attack your trauma. What is that from your past? But to even identify it, you have to look backwards to figure out what that is. But what I love about what you said, and I can resonate with what you said so much, because I remember, Cayla, I'm not even joking you. I remember as a kid thinking that I was ugly, thinking that I was ugly. And dude, I was like, it was really like I had a great personality. I worked with my strengths that I had. Okay. For sure. But in my mind, I'm like, dude, I'm ugly. But I go back and I look at pictures of me as a kid. I'm like, oh my God, I was so cute. Like I was just a cute kid, And I say that because I love how you said once you saw yourself in that light and that you've always had it and that people all have always viewed you that way, that you start to attract people into your life because you view you in the way that you do. And that is so powerful because in order for us to attract the right people, we have to be the right people. But that being the right person is literally being uniquely you, but seeing the best in you. It's seeing the best in yourself, and other people will see that. That's like everything you just walked through is so powerful.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know it's a lot there because we get so focused on what's the strategy, Cayla? How'd you do it all? I'm like, well, this is the stuff we need to be talking about because this is really the work that you have to integrate in your life every single day because people are attracted to that type of confidence. And because it reminds them like that they have something powerful inside of them. And that is the work that you need to be doing if you want to be successful.
I could not agree more. I've heard you talk about in some of your content that, some people, because you have a coaching program, I have a coaching program too.
Okay.
And some people come in and let's just ask you. I'll just ask you and see how you respond to this. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you talked about why you feel like some people aren't coachable, right? Not that they're forever uncoachable, but like in the moment, they're not that coachable. And why do you believe that is?
Well, people love playing the victim because being a victim has benefits. People can feel sorry for you. People will enable your bad behavior. It's really comfortable when you're playing the victim for everybody in your life. And when you start playing the victor and you start getting what you want, it makes other people around you feel uncomfortable. So there's a lot that you have to overcome to move out of victim into victor. And most people are just not willing to do it. And so, I coach all the time inside of my programs about taking radical responsibility. You might have just invested, $10,000 into this program, and you're going to learn everything I can teach you about being successful, about making money and creating long-term wealth. But I'm not in the day-to-day life. I'm not making sure you're checking in on your inner child. I can't do that work for you. You've got to do it for yourself. You've got to show up in the energy when you go to a networking event that people actually want to be around you. And if you're a victim, we all know we could smell victims from a mile away, especially successful people. We're like, I'm like, it's contagious. I got to stay away from it. I don't want to be around it. We could stiff them out. And, if you get stuck in that, you attract more victims. And so it's a lot of they just become crap magnets. And so you got to really focus on having that winner's mentality. One of my favorite books is by Tim Grover called Winning. Have you read it?
Great book.
I listen to it all the time. It's like, sometimes I just have to have that just be my track in life, just going, because I want to have that winner's mindset. And it's a commitment level. You have to sacrifice your comfort zone. You have to sacrifice having people, be in your life that are enablers. And a lot of people don't want to give that up. And when you hire a coach, sometimes I think people think that when I hire a coach, they're going to, give me everything and unlock the secrets to success and my life's going to work. That's how a victim thinks. That's really what a victim thinks. And a victor goes, okay, I'm going to, learn from Tyler everything that he's done to create an amazing life. And if it's meant to be for me, it's up to me. So I know I'm going to pay for proximity because I want to think like Tyler thinks. That's how a winner thinks. I just want to be around Tyler. I want to learn how he thinks. And that's a win for me at the end of the day. So.
Cayla, I haven't really thought of it in the way that you just said, where you said a victim is somebody who signs up for coaching and thinking that the person is going to do it all for them. And that I get that. And I totally understand that, but I haven't thought of it in that light for whatever reason, but it is true. It's like somebody who takes ownership, right? That knows what they really want. They're going to get there no matter what. And you said pay for proximity, right? You pay for proximity. You see how these people think. And it's not just a strategy. Like so many people, I believe so many people they come in, they're like, what's the strategy? X to Z, 1, 2, 3. And it's like, okay, we can give you frameworks and we can teach you those things. But in the reality, that's the easy shit. It's when you get knocked off course. Did you say crap magnets, by the way? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, I loved that. I just want to make sure that I translated that properly on my end, but that's phenomenal.
I know. Phenomenal. I never curse. I always say crap. So it sounds funny.
Yeah. I need to take a page out of your book. I curse too much. I'll try to keep it in check today. So.
Well, my kids will
charge
you. But it
is those crap magnets.
Oh. They charge $20 a curse word, so it's hilarious. Yeah.
Hey, that's, you know what? Geez, that's what I need to do. That's what my kids need to do. That's it. I love that though. It's just completely owning the outcome in your life. And what's crazy is that doesn't mean that you get to determine, like you can't control what happens, but ultimately if you can control the small things that you do, well, then what you want to have happen will happen, right? It's small steps for a big impact, right?
Absolutely. And, every year I always say that was the hardest year of my life. That's how I feel, every year becomes the hardest year of my life because actually as you have more businesses, there's more complex problems that you have in front of you that you've never had to deal with before. And you have to be the type of person that can handle those types of problems. So if you're somebody who, invest in a program and you can't handle the mindset, like the little mindset shifts that you have to make, you're not going to be able to handle the 8-figure problems, the 9-figure problems that are coming. You're going to stay here. So yeah, it's all a mindset game.
That's it. The problems don't get smaller, they get bigger, but you just get bigger. Right?
Exactly.
You get bigger. So let's talk, because I love how you also said, I heard you say one time that, you had problems growing up. Your kids are going to have problems too. They're just going to have different problems. Right. And I loved when I heard you say it because you're always going to have problems. Sometimes we have this fallacy and we think that the problems are going to go away. They're always going to be there. They're just different level of problems. Right. Yeah. And so I loved when I heard you say that. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, a lot of people have this when I mentality. When I make money, when I have my first $1 million year, everything is going to be fine. It's like, whoa, that's victim mindset again, thinking that one thing is going to solve your problem, that money is going to solve your problem. Usually money doesn't solve. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. It doesn't solve a lot of problems. Yeah. It really doesn't. It's great. Like I love having money. Trust me. I'd rather be rich all day long, but it's always about the mindset behind the decisions you're making with the money that actually solves the problems. And so, it's, you got to, if you find yourself saying if I only, that's when you need to go and say, okay, let me make sure that my little inner child is not running my business over here. Cause I need to go nurture her because she's acting like a child about business, and my highest self needs to be running the show right now. She thinks differently.
Yeah, that's so good. That is so good. Yeah, I can tell that your coaching program is phenomenal just by the way you talk and you simplify items. Like you're very good at simplification of which it makes it easier to act at that point. Right. So I would love to talk about your business and what you do, because you're in the real estate space as well. You're in the coaching space, mindset space. You mind if we talk a little bit about what you do there?
Well, one thing I found is I used to actually talk very big about a lot of the concepts I was teaching, and people weren't getting results. What's wrong? I've told them everything. And I found out, well, we got to spoon feed information to people, because people are actually thinking at a third grade level, usually in how they digest the information. So the more we can break it down for people, the better results that people are going to get. And so I'm really always like about like, okay, a little bit at a time, giving it to them. But I've been in the coaching space for, the last 10 years. I got my start. I was working as an ER nurse, got involved in network marketing, and I thought it was so cool that I could post online about what I was doing for the day, and people would want to buy things from me just by me sharing my life. And it was just mind blowing to me. This was like 12 years ago I started doing that. And, then people ask me, Cayla, like, how'd you do it? How do you get people to like kind of like be obsessed with you where they want to like do everything you're doing? Then again, I had to reverse engineer that process and figure out, well, I was just being authentic. I was just always being me. And so that's the secret sauce. How can I teach people how to be themselves? That's when I created Mommy Millionaire about 6 years ago and created a ton of coaching programs on helping people really become authentically themselves and not a watered down version of somebody else. And, really stepping into their power so that way they can make as much money as they want to make. So that was really like the start of it. And then as I wrote the book, What Do You Really Want? I was going, okay, like I don't feel in alignment with Mommy Millionaire anymore. Yes, we've reached millions of people all over the world, but my kids are teenagers now and they don't call me mommy. And, I don't want to talk about some of the same stuff I've been talking about for so many years. What gets me lit up is talking about real estate, talking about the long-term game, and not making money the goal, but really like making lifestyle the goal. And so I rebranded to Crafted Entrepreneur just a few months ago because I was like, I have to be a product of my book. And what I found out by writing the book is I, need to rebrand. And so I did it, and it's been a whole like identity shift. Honestly, it's been crazy because there were a lot of people that were upset about it because they had like Mommy Millionaire on their vision boards, and they're like, "What? Mommy Millionaire's gone?" I'm like, oh my gosh, So it was a big thing. But I am obsessed with helping people figure out what is holding them back in their lives. And it's usually a few simple things that they are unable to see on their own. That's the power of coaching, is having them come into one of our programs and us being a mirror for them and being like, hey, you say you want all of this, but here's how you're showing up in the world. And if you want something different, you've got to be somebody different. And doing that over and over and over again and seeing, tens of thousands of people at this point get results, it's just so life-giving to me.
Yeah. And that's so important for people to understand. It's not that you're just going to reach this point and stop. It's like those people who, had Mommy Millionaire on their vision board will keep that. That's still there. And then guess what? When you get there, I'm creating the new thing to put on your vision board. So you're welcome. And then they'll learn those things. It's beautiful.
Apartments are on your vision board now. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get it. Yeah. So what kind of real estate do you invest in? And I know you raise a bunch of capital. I want to get into that too.
Yeah. So I am really excited right now about Class B multifamily and also storage units. And then we do a little bit of like single family homes as well in certain markets. But I just love everything about real estate because I'm very faith-based, and it's like, you got to take land. You got to take land. And there's so much out there about like crypto and there's so much stuff that I do not understand. Like people ask me all the time, are you invested in crypto? I'm like, I cannot explain it. I don't invest in things I can't understand or explain. So I know might be hot and it might be booming, but if I don't get it, it's not meant for me. So I stick to the things that I understand, and I understand take land. So that's what I focus on. And what I found was I've had this podcast for years. People would always say, Cayla, okay, I'm making money now. What do I do with it? I'm like, okay, go invest in real estate. Well, I was investing in all these different funds. And I asked this one guy that I had been investing with for a while, and I'm not going to name his name. And I was like, hey, like I have some people who want to invest. Can I get a kickback? Because that's like the network marketer in me. I'm like, how do I get paid for my connections? Because I had been doing that for so long. And he was like, oh, can't do that. Like, not going to happen. And I was like, what? like, why'd you shut the door on me? Like, I have all these people. I didn't know at the time that he could go to jail if he did that, right? If he paid the kickback. So I was like, okay, but he just like shut the door. And the very next day I was talking to one of my really good friends. His name's Cayla, and he got home from a mastermind, and I was telling him like, hey, like I got to figure out how to get paid for my connections because, you know, I just have this huge network of people that now need to invest. And he said, oh my gosh, I just went to a mastermind and met this guy. All he does is teach people how to start funds. What? Like, don't you have to go to Harvard for that? That's what I asked. I'm like, don't you have to go to like an Ivy League school? I could do that. He's like, yeah. So I joined this guy's mastermind the very next day to learn how to start a fund because I'm just an action taker. And for people listening in right now, like if you want to own your outcome, be an action taker. Like if something's like calling to you, like just do it. Stop thinking about it so much and waiting for a sign. It's like, that's my sign right there. Found somebody who has what I want. You know, I'm going to go pay him money, shortcut the process. And so I learned how to start a fund and realized, okay, I have already been raising capital. I've had friends that have had startups that I've raised a ton of money for through my network. And I'd always negotiate some type of thing in that, like, hey, you know, once I raise a certain amount, can I get more shares? And we worked out deals in that way. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like the fund, there's a lot of more like legalities and things with it, but I can do this. And so I started my first fund in 2022 and realized it's so freaking hard to raise capital in that way. I had 2 weeks to raise $2 million. And I did it, but it was the hardest thing I ever did because I thought when people said, I'll give you, you know, I think one person told me they were going to give me $1 million. So like, okay, sweet. I don't need the money for like another month. So I'll call you in 30 days and get the money. And I learned in 30 days later, I should have taken the money 30 days ago because they changed their mind. So anyways, I had a lot of interesting things that happened that first time. And then my next fund I opened up it's Prosper Opportunity. And we're still like raising capital for Class B multifamily and storage units. And I've just partnered with, I have mine as a fund to funds model. So we're just going into other people's funds, but it's been really great because my podcast network has been craving this without knowing it. And so it's really fun to be able to give them different opportunities. And then I opened up a third fund about 6 months ago, doing something completely different outside of real estate. But it's been really eye-opening and hard. It's been one of the hardest things I've done just because, you know, there's so many SEC legalities with it. I'm like, knowing my background, I'm like, I always want to make sure I call my lawyer, like everything's good, right? And he's like, why are you calling me? I'm like, I just want to make sure you've done everything you're supposed to do.
So, exactly.
You know, like, I'm like, did you do this? Did you do that? He's like, yes. Okay. So yeah, it's been fun.
Dude, that's so good. I mean, I'm obviously in the same space. We have a couple funds. We're in the multifamily space. Was it Bridger that you went with?
Yes.
Yeah. Bridger Pennington, he's awesome. And it is challenging to raise into a fund. I found out the same thing. A specific deal, people can see that specific deal.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like they can wrap their head around it. A fund is more abstract for them. And so it is a little bit more challenging. I would definitely agree with that. You know, but it's also powerful because you can help them take action.
It's been crazy to watch because sometimes I think with newer investors that, you know, maybe this is their first time ever investing in real estate or maybe anything besides stocks. I've found that they like the shiny, more risky investments compared to where I'm going. Like, this is like very risk averse. Like, this is what you want to do because like, you don't want to lose money. And going into startups, you're basically saying bye-bye to a lot of that money. And, you know, and so it's kind of like convincing them and helping them. I found, okay, I cannot convince them. I'm going to educate, you know, on my investment philosophy and help them create an investment philosophy for themselves so they stop losing money because there's so many freaking gurus out there online that, you know, people just go, oh, I want to be with them. I want to, you know, attach my wagon to them. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, have you ever gotten paid? Like, you know, like it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, I can go on a whole tangent on that, Tyler. So Save me.
Yeah, but what you just said is so powerful. That's I know now. I know why you raise money. I know what you have done to raise money from one simple aspect that you said. You said I couldn't convince them, so I'd educate them on my investment model. And that is key. You're not out there. If you're anybody who's listening to this trying to raise capital, you're not out there to convince anybody. That's not, you won't do it. Or it'll be a very painful process for you.
That was what
I
I
have
did
the same mentality. Yeah. Amen. Me too. I had a sales background. So I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. But in reality, it's not, it's just educating. If you educate the right, once again, you'll now attract the right people into the space that you're looking to, to educate them on.
Absolutely.
Methodology.
And it's been crazy for me how people have invested directly from my Instagram. I mean, people that just wire over 100K. I'm like, you don't want to get on a webinar or anything? They're like, no, I listen to all your podcasts. Here you go. I'm like,
okay. Yeah. I want to talk about this. Yes. And I literally will never forget that either, Cayla. The first time that I had somebody, because anybody who's raised capital knows that you have conversation, and then you start raising capital. Well, the first time that I had somebody invest without ever having a phone call conversation with them, I was blown away. Yeah. But why? It's because they felt like they had been talking to me for a long time because they had been on my social media. And I tell people all the time, if you want to raise capital, you need to be on social media. But they don't. So I'm going to ask you something as a coach. Why do you feel like they don't post on social media? What would you tell somebody in that lane?
Everybody has fear of rejection. Everybody. And, I've really learned to take authority because I think rejection's a spirit, and I'm very woo-woo, but I just take authority over that.
You think rejection is, well, you said, I missed that. You said rejection.
I think it's a spirit.
Ah. What do you mean by that? Can you explain that? No, I love it though.
Okay, because I just really feel like, how we can feel good. Like if I'm talking to you, I'm like, oh yeah, like he has a good spirit. Like there's something good about him. Yeah. People say that about me too. And then there's some people you talk to and you could feel their spirit is not good. Like there's everybody is spirits, but there are like spirits out here too. People are going to think like, I'm going to shut this podcast off right now, but whatever.
No, I'm telling you, I'm woo woo as well. That's why I love this. That's why I lean into it. I agree with you on all this right now.
So it's really powerful if we can learn to disassociate ourselves from these things rather than going like, oh, like my thoughts over here. I'm thinking that everybody's going to judge me when I start to, teach about real estate online, or I start to teach about the things that I'm investing in online. All these people are going to judge me. We think it's us like saying these things. I'm like, no, like I'm made in the image of God. I'm perfect and whole, and I'm made for abundance and prosperity. And so that is not my true nature. Like I didn't come out of the womb having negative thoughts. Did you, Tyler? Most people, we don't come out that way. We learn it because it's all of these outside perspectives coming into us. And so I always just like, if I start to feel that type of rejection, I'm like, no, like some like spirits, like get off of me. I only want anything that's holy. And so I will go like, what is true about my nature? And my nature is I want to help people. I want to give to people. I want to leave people better than when they first met me. And so when I go on social media, everybody better feel that way. That is the reason why I'm going on there. And people that don't feel that way, then they are not my people. And I want to repel those people. And so for anybody listening in right now that's struggling with posting, you've got to have, that why. Like on the other side of you posting that video, of you doing that reel or giving that financial education that you're giving, how is it going to change somebody's life? And when you get so hooked into that, you will show up in a whole new way, not giving a crap what people think or say about you. You're just thinking about that person on the other side of the screen that, like, I have had people say they were suicidal, and after watching me, consuming my podcast, they're living like a life of abundance now. And like, that was enough for me to hear enough stories like that to be like, I don't care what anybody else says. Like they can make fun of me all day long. I do not care. I am showing up for those people.
Oh my gosh. That was so powerful. I can't wait to go back and re-listen to that, because I asked that question for anybody listening, but the answer was for me. That was awesome. I love how you said that it's not our thoughts, it's a spirit. I look at that as you have positive, negative. So like I would look at that as the adversary, the devil, right?
Yes.
And it's not your thoughts, it's not what you're doing. It's the devil is the one who works in doubt, distraction, fear, those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's
I
oh
didn't
my
know if
gosh,
you
that was so
believed in that.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I always say, like the enemy, it's a stronghold. And so when you just start to take authority and take dominion over your field, things start to change. Yeah. Because if
Yeah.
he can hold you down into that, Tyler, then you're not going to be able to explode and take even more land and take even more, it's like expansion for you. And so, yeah, just take authority over that.
But then the other side that really resonated is it's not just expansion for me. It was the other side that you mentioned on top of that, which was if you let that spirit stop you
Yeah.
from doing this, it's the impact on the other side.
Yeah. But that's
'Cause-
a part, that's your impact is expansion, like
Yeah.
all of these
Oh,
people
yeah.
that are going to have their lives changed by going to your events, by listening to your podcast, by you being in like your truest nature. It's crazy. It's so amazing what's going to happen because you're already doing all these awesome things, but it's like there's a whole nother level.
Yes. Your impact is your expansion. Mm-hmm. Your impact is your expansion. That is, man, that's a great quote right there. That's a great quote. Using it. That's in the title for sure. I love it. Cayla, you're a beast, man. I'm seriously so impressed. I love how you explain things. And you're right. Your spirit, you do have a good spirit. And we're on Zoom and I can feel it. Like, yeah. I mean, I could feel it before. That's why I told you I was so excited to chat with you because I could feel it from consuming your content. And you have a great podcast. Tell them I love to listen to you. I honestly went through a bunch of your podcast episodes. I would usually at least go listen to one if somebody that I'm interviewing. But I actually listen to a bunch of them. And I know that I'm not your target either. I know that your target is, the female entrepreneur. But man, hey,
listen in.
I got a soft side to me. That's it.
No, I love it. Yeah. My show is now called Crafted Entrepreneur. And we really talk about all things that come along with being an entrepreneur. So health, your finances. People don't talk about your health enough, but I just brought on like a couple health experts because without your health, you have really nothing. You've got to be feeling good and taking care of yourself to impact the world. And so we bring on experts in that way. I talk about just, what do you do to create the long-term wealth at the same time, create, short-term wins for yourself. And yeah. And I have amazing friends and I love having the podcast because I just did an 8-hour day yesterday podcasting with people. And I feel so filled up by talking to all of these amazing entrepreneurs. And who you hang out with and who you surround yourself with is really like going to make or break you when it comes to your entrepreneur career. Because if I just stayed in my comfort, like my personality, I just want to stay. I live in Newport Beach in a bubble, I like to call it. I'll just stay here and be by myself with my kids and my husband. Like that's all I want to ever do. That is my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And if I just did there, I would get nothing done. Like I wouldn't impact as many people as I'm meant to impact. And so I got to go hang out with those people that are doing big things. I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm meant for that big thing too. Like I got to be reminded. So it's good to even just listen into the podcast to help your mind expand for yourself what's possible. So yeah, I love the podcast. We have almost 600 episodes and we're just getting started. I feel like.
Dude, we'll
I need to have you on, Tyler. I'm going to have you on.
Hey, we'll do a reverse Uno. I love it. I would love to be on there. And we'll put the link to your podcast. I also want to talk, as we wrap this up, I want to talk about your book launch again. And I want to circle back to it. One of the things that I pulled from one of your episodes that I really liked too is you said something along the lines of, there's two things I want to say that I pulled because one was what you talked about, which is like your circle, your network of people. And you said something along the lines of, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you remember, but something along the lines of your network needs to be aligned with the future version of yourself or something along those lines.
Yeah. The people that you're hanging out with right now need to remind you of your future and not of your past. And we tend to, as human beings, we just like to be in our comfort. And so hanging out with people we've known since fifth grade, second grade, we feel really comfortable around them because we can go back to, playing small there. And there's nothing wrong with those people, but we have to hang out with those people that remind us of our dreams, that remind us of where we're headed and what's truly like meant for us. Because and we do feel uncomfortable in that way because sometimes we're not there yet. Like we haven't become the person yet that's going to be able to handle that type of responsibility, that type of influence. And the more we hang out with those types of people, we become the person we're meant to be. And just it's by like osmosis, you start to think completely opposite. I remember going from 6 figures, 7 figures to 8 figures. At every level, you got to think completely differently about your problems, about your future, about just so much stuff. I have a friend that's a billionaire and we go to dinner often and she's like a mom of 3 too. And she's about 10 years older than me. And I'll tell her about like what I'm going through, my storm that I feel like I'm in. And she'll be like, Cayla, like, why are we even talking about this at dinner? Like, this is not a problem. Like you got to just like move on. Like you're talking about your problems too long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I thought this was like a big thing. And she's like, no. And it started to like really impact me in a way that, oh yeah, I've got to move quickly through these things that hurt me because I've got so much impact to be had on this earth. I cannot stay here in this stuff. But, she's been a billionaire for over 15 years. Like she thinks so much differently than me. And I got to keep. So I'm like, can we go to dinner? I'm seeing her tonight. I'm excited.
Yeah. I love it. I got to move quickly through these things because I have so much impact to make.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that's the story. Like, if you can tell yourself that story as you're going through a challenge, man, I got to get through this and I can't let this thing hold me down because this impact. Man, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I
Okay,
think
the other thing that I wanted to point out. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say,
no,
I think
there was a delay. Go ahead.
Sometimes when we're in the challenge, I remember in the beginning, I would be like, how can I avoid this challenge? How can I never have this challenge happen again? And now what I've realized is we just got to push through the challenge. Like the quicker we could go and solve this thing and be on the other side of it, we're going to be smarter. We're going to be tougher. We might have this challenge happen again, but next time we're going to see it coming and we're going to be on offense instead of defense. And so, every challenge makes you stronger.
That's a framework for owning the outcome. Literally that. Whatever the obstacle, whatever the challenge, whatever the problem, you don't avoid it. You go right freaking through it.
Yes.
And what does that do? That changes your identity. That changes your confidence. That changes you. So the next time, I love how you said you're on offense instead of defense, but you're also a different person. Every time you get knocked off baseline and come back to baseline has shifted because you were different because you actually attacked it instead of ran from it.
Yes.
And that's amazing. That's
good.
why you're stronger. Right.
That's so good.
The other side, and then I want to talk about your book launch because I know you're doing some awesome things for your book launch and some offering some different packages for those who are pre-ordering. So I want to talk about that. Okay. But I want to say one more thing because one more thing I heard you say is what's your definition of ego or your acronym for ego?
Edging God out. Edging God out.
And sorry, I'll say one thing on it because it carries a totally different context for me because I got to tell you when I heard that it's literally I was listening to a bunch of your stuff and I hear it and I'm like then I start taking notes and I took notes on it because it has a different context for me because you talked about the this spirit, this evil side. Well, this is your ego being like, man, I don't want to post, I don't want to do this, I don't want to put myself. Well, really what you're doing is you're edging God out. The minute that you let go of that, focus on impact, that removes the adversary and you move forward with impact. So love that definition.
It's so good. Ego makes you think that the world is about you. And that's why you should follow your dreams. When really you're here and you're alive right now to your part of your purpose is to impact other people. We were made for connection in that way. And part of like Tyler completing his purpose is going to take a lot of people. Part of me completing my purpose, it's going to take a lot of people around me. And so we all know people that live in their ego, there's something about them where like, they give me the heebie-jeebies. I just don't want to be around them. and people out
Yeah.
there in the world feel the same way. We're like, gosh, like, why? Like, why do they have to be like that? Can't they just be themselves? And so when you can really go, okay, God, what do you have for me today? Who do you want me to serve? And just coming from that place and surrender and just give it to completely to God. That's when God gets to show off with your life. That's when you're going to have like a glory story, I call it, because it is not possible with you and your human strength. It's not going to happen with that alone. It's going to be like one of those stories where, wow, like God completely showed up and showed out with your life.
Yes. That's when God can show off with your life, man. I love that. And I literally, sincerely, anybody who's listening to this right now, I already know y'all have pulled value. If you haven't, go back and re-listen. You haven't been paying attention. Of course you pulled value. And I'm just telling you that I know that Cayla has a framework. It's not just the system. It's not just this framework. It's not just this strategy. It is all about improving you. The whole episode has been about improving you. You want to own the outcome. Well, there's these different perspectives that we can have that change us. And so let's talk about your book launch and let's talk about what you're doing there as we wrap this up. How can people participate in the book launch and what are you doing there?
Okay. So anybody that's interested in reading the book or just, having it sit on
They're
your coffee
all
table.
interested. They're all interested. 110%. I'm going to tell you right now that everybody listens to this having that shit on their coffee table. It's a fact.
Okay. Well, then get at least 10. No, go to craftedoffer.com and you'll see all the different things we have because if you buy just one book, you're going to get a free course that I'm breaking down my 7 steps that will help you get what you want in life. And then I decided to do something really cool because, I grew up with an incarcerated parent. I have such a heart for them because 2.4 million people are incarcerated in America right now. And 113 million Americans are affected by those that are incarcerated. And I was like, gosh, like 90% of those people are going to get out, but 75% of those people will land back in jail in 3 years. What can I do to change that? And I got to teach them how to take their street hustle and make it a holy hustle, because most people, they are entrepreneurs at heart. Okay. They're just doing the wrong things. And so,
The wrong hustle.
Right. So what I've decided to do is people that can, have the ability to purchase a large order, we're going to donate books to prisons all over America to help those people really change and heal their inner child so they can start getting what they want. Nobody wants to be in prison. Nobody wants to live that lifestyle. They don't have the coping mechanisms. They don't have the network and they don't have the skills to make it out in the real world. And so along with the books and an entrepreneur and training course that we're going to give them, it's going to help, hopefully millions of people that are incarcerated right now so they can get out and be reunited with their loved ones. And that's really the goal there. So you can find out all that information on craftedoffer.com. And I'm taking 50 people in 2024 to come with me into the prisons and actually coach these people. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that is awesome. We will put all the links, all the info on, in the description everywhere. And we'll push that. I love the cause. I love the cause behind it. And I love the cause behind it. It's obviously uniquely attached to you and your background as well, which is why you're so passionate about it and why it'll be such an impactful event. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. I'm really excited because, all my friends that have books, it's like, Cayla, can you buy 100 books? My garage is full of all of these books and I love them, but it's like, I've given it, like, I can't give out any more books. So like, I don't want people to do that for me that want to support me. I want them to like go somewhere and actually change lives. And so that's how we came up with that.
Love it. Cayla, you're amazing. Sincerely, thank you so much for taking the time to be on here, talking about and showing how you own the outcome in your life and how you're continuing to own the outcome through a new rebrand and a book launch. And you're amazing, man. You're an inspiration, my friend. That is awesome.
Thank you so
any
much
other
for
things that you want to end on? No, you're good. Anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like, go out there and get what you want and hang out with other people that want those same things for you. And you'll see that synergistically, you guys will all start building momentum in your life and start being winners.
Yeah, but in order for them to do that, they need to know what they really want, and they're going to know that by getting your book, which is why we're going to put the link in there. Go buy that thing, go read that thing, go implement all the teachings that Cayla walks through. Cayla, thank you so much. Everybody else, go share this, go follow Cayla if you don't already, and live always with aloha. Peace.